A B-24 bomber vanished over North Africa in 1943. 15 years later, someone finally found it, and the real story of what happened to its crew. April 4, 1943, the Lady Be Good was a brand new American B-24 Liberator bomber, one of the most advanced aircraft in the world. Captain William Hatton and his 9-man crew had just completed a bombing run against German targets in Tunisia. They'd flown the mission successfully. No flak damage, no fighters engaged. Everything had gone right. But Hatton faced a decision. Fuel was low. He could try to reach Malta, a 260-mile flight over open Mediterranean water, or he could turn back toward their home base in Libya. He chose to fly on to Malta. That decision cost him everything. Hatton didn't know and couldn't have known that a navigation error had placed him 60 miles off course. The coastline he saw wasn't Malta, it was Libya, and by the time he realized his mistake, he had no fuel left to reach anywhere. At 8:41 p.m., with engines dying, Hatton ordered the crew to bail out. 9 men jumped into the darkness over the Libyan desert. One man, Bombardier Robert Toner, was injured on landing. The others gathered around him in the sand, taking stock of what they had: a compass, a small emergency kit, and nothing else. No water, no food, no idea where they actually were. The crew made another decision, walked toward what they hoped was friendly territory. Toner couldn't move. They decided to leave him with what little shelter they could build, promising to send help. They never came back. Toner died there alone in the desert. The other 8 began walking. For 5 days they walked. No water, temperatures exceeded 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The desert offers no landmarks, no mercy. One by one, men collapsed. Pilot Hatton and navigator Vernon Moore pushed on, trying to reach the coast. On the 6th day, they spotted what looked like a settlement. It was a mirage. Moore sat down in the sand and refused to go further. Hatton kept walking. What Hatton didn't know was that search and rescue teams were already looking. The Army Air Forces had launched extensive operations across Libya, but the desert is vast, and a single crashed bomber disappears into it completely. The search lasted weeks, then months, then it was called off. The Lady Be Good and her crew were declared lost. But the desert never gives up its secrets easily. In 1958, 15 years later, a British petroleum exploration team was surveying the Libyan sands for oil deposits. A pilot spotted something unusual, the glint of metal beneath the sand. They landed and dug. Within hours, they'd uncovered the fuselage of the Lady Be Good, nearly intact, buried under drifts of sand and time. Inside the cockpit, they found something haunting: the crew's logbook. In neat military handwriting, someone had documented the crash landing, the decision to walk, and the fading hope of rescue. The entries grew shakier. The dates stopped. But the plane itself told another story. It was intact enough to suggest the landing hadn't been catastrophic. If rescue had come sooner, some of them might have survived. The discovery set off a new search. In 1960, another team combed the surrounding desert on foot. They found Toner's remains first, still near the wreckage where he'd been left behind. Then, spread across miles of sand, they found the others. Moore, Hatton, the rest, scattered across the landscape they'd tried so desperately to cross. The strategic reality became clear. Every decision that crew made was rational given what they knew at the time. Hatton chose to fly to Malta instead of turning back, a sound call based on available fuel calculations. The navigation error wasn't his fault. The decision to bail out saved most of their lives immediately. The decision to walk was their only option, with no radio and no supplies. But the desert calculated in numbers no commander could overcome: 9 men, 0 water, 120-degree heat, and 5 days walking distance to any settlement. The costs were absolute. 8 men dead in the desert, 1 dead before they even left. A search operation that scanned hundreds of square miles and found nothing. 15 years of uncertainty for their families, and a bomber, a $300,000 aircraft buried in the sand waiting. What makes the Lady Be Good different from other wartime losses is what that wreckage preserved: the logbook, the intact fuselage, the scattered remains that could finally be identified and brought home. For 15 years, the crew's families had no closure, no grave to visit, no certainty. The desert held them in suspension between hope and loss. When the plane was found, the mystery ended. The cost remained. Today, the Lady Be Good wreck is a monument, not just to a crew that made calculated decisions under impossible pressure, but to the margin between survival and catastrophe, a margin measured in navigation accuracy, fuel calculations, and the brutal arithmetic of desert survival. One mistake in one moment, cascading across 15 years of absence. Subscribe. Every week we uncover the decisions behind history's greatest disappearances and the cost of not knowing.